Hello, I'm Dr. Jeff Anderson from Intermountain Medical Center Heart Institute, my colleague Dr. Brent Muhlestein, and we're here to discuss the results of the FOURIER trial, which was presented earlier today to a sellout, if you will, audience. Dr. Muhlestein was actually one of the investigators in this trial from our center, so I'll just turn it over to him. Brent, what do you think the outstanding results of the trial are, and maybe the unanswered questions or concerns about how we apply the trial results in clinical practice?
Oh, thank you, and it's so glad to have you back from the Ukraine, back in the saddle.
Delighted to be here.
So, yes, I was very excited about the results, and especially for a stable CAD population with only 3 years of outcome. Remember, there's never been a lipid trial that was positive in stable patients within 3 years. You already have a statistically significant reduction in cardiovascular events.
So I understand that the curves didn't really start to separate very much in the first year, but then there was progressive separation that kept separating when the trial was stopped.
That's right.
Is that right?
That was very exciting. The more you were on the drug, the more the curves separated. The slopes changed. And so the greater percent benefit for the greater amount benefit, which was also found in statins. And so there has been long evidence that the longer you're on a statin, the better it is. And so it turns out that that's the case in this case in a pure lipid-lowering drug. And so,
Brent, I was impressed with the safety of the drug. I mean, these patients had LDLs that got down to an average of 30, and a lot of them, a quarter, were under 20.
Yeah.
And I've been, concerned about going that low with other patients, just even on, let's say, high-dose statin. What do you make out of that? Does that give you more reassurance that lower is better and is safe?
Oh, absolutely. And the fact that it's not just a few. I mean, there were over 30,000 patients, and so thousands of patients were followed for at least 3 years with LDLs less than 20, and they didn't have any bad problems, cognitive or anyway. I guess they're going to have a cognitive report tomorrow. And so, that was very exciting. The other thing that was exciting about it is that the benefit was not lost. The safety, there's no new antibodies formed, no report about any myopathies, and so this drug appears to be very promising and opens up a whole new class of agents. And so I'm sure there are going to be more PCSK9 inhibitors down the road, and that's very exciting.
Brent, there wasn't any difference, though, in cardiovascular death. What do you make out of that? I mean, you would hope that, of everything, death, trumps everything else, and there wasn't any difference. Was it just a matter of a lower risk to begin with, or not waiting long enough, or is there some issue there we need to be concerned about?
Yeah, and this isn't the first time that a study like this has been stopped early because of a profound effect on the primary endpoint. And so there are some who would propose, maybe some DSMB leaders might propose, that you don't stop a study until there's a profound effect on death. But they stopped the study anyway, and we still don't have an effect on death. But the other studies have done, such as I think it was called I blank on the name of the study, but another study of lipid lowering, in which they stopped it early because of a profound benefit and there was not an effect on death. But then they did a legacy study later, 10 years later, in which there was a significant effect on death. So if you stop heart attacks, if you stop strokes, if you stop hospitalization, one justification is that those are all important anyway.
Right.
But the other justification is very likely those will result in mortality benefit in the long run.
Well, you're right, and I was impressed that after the first year there was a 33% reduction in the hard endpoints of MI and stroke, and I believe. Is that
That's right?
So that's very promising that hopefully down the road those will have an impact on mortality. Well, I think we just need to figure out who we can afford to give this to now, because of course the expense, and that will be a challenge.
That's right, it does bring up the question, because one thing that was mentioned by the discussants was this was in a broad population of patients. Basically anybody with secondary prevention problems, already known cardiovascular disease, was included in this study, and they all received benefit no matter what their baseline LDL that was to begin with. And so the FDA indication is going to be for everybody. And so now, what is the company going to do? Are they going to lower the price because they have a huge market, or are they going to keep the price high and try to strangle the insurance companies to really pay up? So I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Let's hope that somehow we can afford to treat it more patients rather than fewer going forward.
That's certainly good.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much.